So I mentioned earlier we were talking about garbage, and there's just a quick story here out of Seattle where apparently it's now going to be a finable offense to put too much food in your garbage can.
Well, what if it's a compost can?
That's what they want you to compost.
You wouldn't have a can that they would throw out, right? Do they have compost cans that are collected by the city?
No.
I don't think they do now.
No, this would be for what you put out on the curb.
Oh, okay.
So the idea is they're going to be able to sift around through your garbage and determine whether or not
What a waste of time. Why would they doesn't that lose them money if they're sifting through your trash?
They're
checking
government employees. They don't care about efficiency.
How are they going to decide how much? Are they going to weigh each trash and decide the proportions? This much is food and this much is.
I think they're just going to eyeball it. According to the story here, the Seattle Times, they have passed at the city council a new ordinance that would mean fines for people who toss too many table scraps into the trash. Under the current SPU, Seattle Public Utilities rules, people living in single-family homes are encouraged but not required to dispose of food waste and compostable paper products in compost bins. Apartment buildings must have compost bins available, but residents of apartment buildings aren't required to use them, and businesses are not subject to any composting requirements. Under the new rules, however, collectors can take a cursory look each time they dump trash into a garbage truck. If they see compostable items making up 10% or more of the trash, they will enter the violation into a computer system that their trucks already carry and will leave a ticket on the garbage bin that says to expect a $1 fine on their next garbage bill.
Is that an eyeballed 10% by volume or 10% by weight?
I don't think they're going to be weighing it, so I think they're just going to be eyeballing it.
Right, but are they what version of 10% are they using? Because
that's not
a banana peel is going to be longer than say a folded up napkin.
Yeah,
and would weigh more, but an orange peel is going to be smaller and weigh less than say a pizza box.
I don't know how they're going to do it, Daryl. I would just say it's just going to be some garbage man looking at your trash and determining whether or not, arbitrarily, whether or not it's more than 10%.
Everybody get a fine.
Apartment buildings and businesses will be subject, and of course, there's no way you'll be able to challenge
dispute
it.
Right.
The trash is gone.
Are you going to take it to court and be like, hey, I didn't. Do you have photo evidence of this trash?
Take pictures of all of the trash that you put in your can.
Yeah, that's just it. There's no way to challenge it because the trash is gone. The evidence in this case has been disposed of. Apartment buildings and businesses.
Ooh, you could then potentially, and of course this is not legal advice, but potentially you could get the ticket thrown out because the evidence was destroyed.
That's true, but most people won't take these things to court, and they probably won't know how if they could take them to court to do so. As always, the government counts on your ignorance and your willingness to, or your unwillingness to go through the difficulty of the court process to avoid this. Plus, who's going to want to go to court over $1 fine? They're just going to pay
How far
it.
are they going to push this petty fining?
Oh, they'll keep pushing it because apparently a third violation will result in a $50 fine. So it sounds like it's no big deal up front, but it's not.
$5, $50.
Yeah. Well, $1, and then $50. Dumpsters, they say, will be checked by inspectors on a random basis at apartment buildings and businesses. Now, it's not made clear. The $50 fine thing is listed in the same paragraph as the apartment buildings and businesses, so maybe that doesn't apply to single-family homes. It's not made real clear. Collectors will begin tagging garbage bins and dumpsters with educational tickets starting on January 1st when they find violations, but fines won't start until July 1st.
Wait, don't you think they would make more money if they went after places like restaurants? I'm sure someplace like Olive Garden throws away hundreds of pounds of food every single day.
Well, I don't think. Well, let's see. Businesses will be subject. So yeah, I guess restaurants are going to have to start ponying up here, unless they're exempted.
Or composting and selling their old food and actually making money off of it, which wouldn't be a bad idea. But I still think that this whole regulation thing is ridiculous.
I don't know. And
how are they going to determine too much?
In a lot of places, there are regulations against restaurants giving food to homeless people. There's probably some corporate policy about, don't give away whatever's left over, because then it would, wind up encouraging people to make sure that they cook a little extra. So I get to take home a big giant bowl of linguine because I cooked a little extra. Ha ha ha. So it's really going to be interesting to see how the businesses wind up responding to this.
Well, according to the SPU's director, Tim Kroll, he says that they don't expect to collect many fines. They say the city outlawed recyclable items from the trash 9 years ago, but since then they've collected less than $2,000 in fines. He says the point isn't to raise revenue. We care more about reminding people to separate their materials. SPU asked the council to consider a new ordinance because the agency is falling short of its recycling and composting goals. Their recycling rate for 2013 was 56%. A slight improvement over 2012, but not on pace to meet their goal of 60% for 2015.
So just real quick, it said in the last 9 years they've only collected
$2,000.
$2,000 worth of fines. Is that because people aren't paying the fines or they're not writing the tickets?
It's not making that clear.
They're probably not writing the tickets because they have to search through the trash. And this is probably going to end up in a similar scenario where they're not making a lot of money off of it, really, but they're not really writing the tickets for it just because nobody wants to spend the time searching through trash. I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but it seems to me like, they're not actually going to spend all that time. Like, yes, they want to encourage people to recycle more, but they just want to make the law and then kind of like forget about it. That's what they do with most of these petty ordinances anyway.
Well, they're saying here that collectors are already checking garbage bins regularly for recyclable items. So they're already sifting through people's garbage, looking to issue fines. They just aren't allegedly writing very many of them. And I think it comes back to what you were talking about earlier, Daryl, with this episode of Penn and Teller's BS, where they brought out bin after bin after bin and kept introducing this homeowner, this guy who didn't know that he was on a hidden camera setup, kept introducing new bins for him to put things into, separating, more separation. And because people have been trained so effectively to believe that this is necessary to save the world, that they're more than happy to do it, right? So that's why that it's going to go relatively smoothly. And of course it's Seattle, which is sort of got that lefty flavor to it in the first place. SPU claims this new law will generate 38,000 tons in additional compost annually, he says. And so again, they're already looking through your trash if you're there in Seattle. The council, by the way, voted unanimously on this, 9-0. Now, the fines are starting at $1, but there's no reason why they can't raise those in another 10 years or 5 years or whatever to
or
$10
next year.
Whatever. Yeah, or next year. So tell me how you feel about this one. The toll-free number is 855-450-FREE. I'm grateful I live in a place where the government doesn't pick up my garbage, where we can throw things out and it's not a problem here and everything's okay. And I'd rather have the market handle garbage disposal rather than have bureaucrats come up with arbitrary rules to try to encourage behavior. Let's come up with more persuasive methods to encourage behavior rather than fines and possible jail time.
Free Talk Live, 7 nights a week from 7 to 10 Eastern, live on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.